This is the MSI Titan Pro. This is one of the best gaming laptops that money can buy, and it is packed with specs. This is the MSI Titan Pro. It's got the Core i7 6820HK CPU. It's got a 1080 GPU, two 512 gig SSDs in RAID 0, 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM, a 17-inch display, and that operates at 120 Hertz. It's got everything, and it hardly breaks a sweat in our gaming benchmarks. Let's take a look at some of the physical attributes of this gaming laptop. All right, let's start with the basics. The Titan Pro has a premium black brushed metal finish with various metallic red accents and other gaming aesthetics. Some of the logo treatments light up when the laptop is powered on, and the bottom is made of plastic. As you can see, there are several wide intake vents, 4 of them, colored in red and black. You've got a few buttons here on the interior that do a variety of things like change the graphics from internal to discrete, control fan speeds, and so on. Now the display hinge gives you about 130 degrees of movement, and it's pretty smooth. The speakers and subwoofer are located on the bottom of the laptop, so the sound isn't going to be entirely clean. We see this on a lot of these gaming laptops. For I/O, you've got 2 USB 3.0 ports on the right and an SD card reader and a Kensington lock. Over here on the left side, you have 3 USB 3.0 ports, line in and line out, mic and headphone jacks. And then here around the back, you have Ethernet, mini display port, a Type-C Gen 2 port, and an HDMI port. Moving to the keyboard, it's a full chiclet keyboard, and as you can imagine, it's pretty well spaced on this monster. Typing is really comfortable, and the SteelSeries Engine 3 drives the keyboard profiles. You get all the typical custom backlighting you'd expect. The internal layout of the Titan Pro is pretty nice, thanks again to the spaciousness of this gaming laptop. Here you can see that the CPU and GPU each have their own heat sinks and each have their own cooling fan. There's also a heat fin over the M.2 slot. With all of the performance packed into the Titan Pro, from the looks of it at least, there's plenty of cooling. As you can see, this thing is a beast. It actually weighs 8.59 pounds, and it's about 2.5 inches thick. Before we look at the gaming benchmarks, it's probably instructive to look at some synthetic benchmarks. We run several, but I'm going to call out 2 in particular. The first one is our storage tests, and naturally, the Titan Pro running 2 Samsung SM951s in RAID 0, it stands out pretty heavily against its competitors. The other one is CompuBench, and here we're running a Bitcoin mining algorithm and a video processing algorithm, and here again you see the strength of the 1080 GPU at work. We're talking about gaming laptops here, so probably the most important thing that we can focus on here are gaming benchmarks. We have 11 gaming benchmarks in our suite, but once again, I'm just going to pick a couple here to focus on. The Titan Pro pretty much runs through all of our gaming benchmarks pretty easily, over 60 frames per second, over 90, over 100 in some of the easier games, the less graphics intensive games. But in particular, Rise of the Tomb Raider, most of the 1070 and 1060 laptops cannot hit over 60 frames per second, but the Titan Pro does. Also, one of the most demanding games in our suite is Grand Theft Auto 5, and in many of the scenes that we tested, the Titan Pro was able to hit 60 frames per second. Not all of them, but most of them. Now remember, in all of these gaming benchmarks, we have the settings set to the very highest levels, and we have every effect turned on just to see how hard we can push these gaming laptops. So once again, the Titan Pro across the board stands out. There are a few more things that are important to gamers in a gaming laptop. First of all, it is a portable machine, so we care about battery life. Second, you're packing all of these components into this tiny little space, so how well does it dissipate heat? Last but not least, you still have to worry about the display, and it's built in. There's nothing you can do about that, so we measure the quality of the display. So first, battery life. Our battery test is NVIDIA's rundown test, and we use Tomb Raider at 30 frames per second using the laptop's battery boost feature. Now, despite its bulk and all the features in the Titan Pro, it gets just shy of 2 hours. Your mileage will vary, of course, and we don't recommend gaming for long on battery life anyway, so this is a pretty decent result. We've got a couple GTX 1060 gaming laptops that manage a full 2 hours or more, but that's really the high mark here. We test thermal dissipation in a couple of different ways. First, we use this thermal image camera from Optus. This is the PI 640. As you can see, the Titan Pro is cool at idle, and our thermal readings show about 80 degrees Celsius during our firm-arc stress tests. Using the sensor data, you can see that the Titan Pro does a pretty good job comparatively. Given its size and the number of vents, that's maybe not so surprising, but it's a good outcome given the beefy processors inside. Finally, we're going to look at the display quality. Now, we use this SpectraCal C6 colorimeter, and we're going to look at various metrics like luminance at various brightness levels, contrast ratio, gamma quality, grayscale, and color accuracy. Now, in this part of the suite, we use the same test that we're running on standalone monitors. The contrast ratios for the Titan Pro are really pretty good. Remember, we're still dealing with a full HD display here at 17 inches. But as we dive a little bit further into the accuracy metrics, looking at gamma and color, we see the Titan Pro really start to fall down. Some of these metrics are reflected in the actual usage, and you can see some of these errors. Now, it's really hard for us to give any gaming laptop that costs $3,500 our unqualified recommendation, but we can recommend it under the following circumstances. If you want to game at the highest levels with all the effects and all the settings at the highest detail levels, then this is probably the laptop for you. And if you have plenty of disposable income or you have loved ones who do, then this is certainly the laptop for you.